Right, now next we talk about the directions of transport, right? Now directions, when we are talking about, well children, we'll have to understand this with the help of this image again. As you can see that the water and minerals are being transported from the roots upwards to the leaves, right? So we would term this direction as a vertical direction or an axial direction, right? So when we talk of directions, we can talk about in terms of whether the substances are being translocated in a vertical direction, which could be either upwards or downwards, right? Also, if you just blow up, or would say enlarge, say this part of a stem or a root and cut its cross section, what would you see here is a circular outline where the outermost layers like the epidermis, I'm sure you know about what the epidermis is. If you haven't studied it now in plant anatomy, you would have studied it in the junior classes, right? So this epidermis is the outermost layer, and the xylem and the phloem happens to lie towards the core of the stem or the root. Now suppose the root is absorbing the nutrients and the water from the soil using their root hairs, and the water is being transported from the root hair, that is the periphery of the root, towards the xylem and the phloem. Now what kind of a transport direction does this become? This becomes a radial transport. So radial transport in this particular case would be centripetal or centrifugal. Please do tell me. So it could be centripetal or centrifugal. So in this particular case, as the water and minerals are being absorbed by the root, you will find that the movement of the water and the minerals is from periphery to center. So that becomes centripetal for the root in case of the transport of water and minerals, right? On the contrary, if there is a substance which has to be transported from the center or from the stellar region or from the vascular cylinder of the stem or the root towards the periphery, then that becomes a centrifugal movement, right? So both centripetal and centrifugal will be considered under the radial transport. So completing this flow chart, the directions obviously include the radial direction, and as we talked about earlier, this also includes the axial or the vertical direction, right? So these are the two main directions in which the transport may be taking place. So it may be like this or like this, or it may be from the center to the periphery or from the periphery to the center. So this is radial and this is vertical or axial. So that is one import or one meaning of this particular, I would say, one connotation of the directions, right? Now also when we talk about the directions of transport, we will talk about another aspect. We will talk about another aspect of the directions. Now when we say that the plants transport their substances in within themselves, it may be either unidirectional or bi or multi-directional. So I would again classify the directions on this basis into unidirectional and bi or multi-directional, right? Now let's understand the import of these two terms with respect to the substances being transported within the plant. Let's see. Now unidirectional transport would mean something which is being transported essentially in one direction. We will consider the example of the transport in xylem in this category. We know that xylem is made up of various conducting and non-conducting elements. The conducting elements of xylem are mainly the vessels and the tracheids, right? Now in the vessels and the tracheids of xylem, we find that the transport essentially takes place from the bottom or from the root to the upper parts of the plant, which means it's obviously an axial or a vertical transport and essentially in one direction. You will always find the stream within the xylem running like this, always from the bottom to the top, right? So this is unidirectional. So in terms of transport, the transport in xylem from the root to the upper parts of the water and the minerals is essentially unidirectional, right? Now when we talk about the bi or multi-directional transports, we will understand the connotation of both the words, bidirectional also and multi-directional also. Now let's understand this with the help of the phloem, right? Now the conducting elements of the phloem are basically made up of the sieve tubes, right? Now when we look within the sieve tubes, obviously the vessels, the tracheids and the sieve tubes are all running through the roots and the stems of the plant in the core region or the stellar region. So when we just take them out to have a look, what would you find there? Let's understand. Now suppose this is a sieve tube. Let me make a better shape to give you an idea of how a sieve tube looks like. So this is the sieve tube. It actually looks like this. And a sieve tube is actually a living element, but there is a space in the center which is termed as the lumen. Whereas the cytoplasm in a sieve tube is towards the periphery, right? So which means it is a living cell, although there is no nucleus here. So no nucleus means that it is an enucleated cell, albeit it is a living cell because there is cytoplasm which is present at the periphery of the sieve tube member or sieve tube element, right? Now when transport, you see the transport within the phloem, you will find that the substances may be traveling both upwards and downwards even within the same sieve tube. Now how does that happen? How can that happen? So what we see here is there is one transport which is taking place in bulk, generally through the lumen part of the sieve tube, right? And all the substances going in this bulk transport are traveling in the same direction. So that is one direction, right? But if you look at the peripheral part of this sieve tube member, you will find that there is some transport occurring through the cytoplasm also, right? Now through the cytoplasm, how? Actually, the cytoplasm is undergoing a streaming movement, a longitudinal streaming movement, which means it is going like this. It is going upwards in one direction and downwards in the other one, much like a two-way escalator. If you have been to an airport or a big mall, you will find the escalator running downwards in one direction, and just at the adjacent side you will find another escalator climbing up also. So you must have seen those people going down in one direction and coming up in the other direction. So that is somewhat what here is happening, that when the cytoplasmic streaming takes place, some of the substances may be going down towards the base of the plant in one direction and towards the upper parts in the other direction, right? So which means that even within the same sieve tube, there may be two directions of transport, both upward as well as downward. So this is downwards. So here the things are going downwards, and from here the things will be going upwards. So with reference to a single sieve tube member, a single sieve tube, you will find that the things may be traveling in two opposite directions, both upwards and downwards. So this explains the word bidirectional. So what exactly is the meaning of multi-directional? Now multi-directional would mean things being transported in all sorts of directions, upwards, downwards, laterally, this way, that way, right? So when we talk of the transport through phloem, in general, we can say in the phloem, the transport is multi-directional, right? So please do differentiate. Here we are talking specifically with reference to a single sieve tube. Obviously, within the single sieve tube, either the things can go up or go down. So it can only be bidirectional. But when we're talking about with the general reference to the phloem in a plant, you'll find that the phloem may carry things upwards up to the upper parts of the plants, down to the roots, laterally to the leaves, diagonally like this, or diagonally downwards, right? Now why does that happen? Now what is the need for it? First of all, let's understand that. Now suppose there is a leaf somewhere here which is growing old, right? and it is about to fall down, right? Now what the plant does is it extracts, or I would say it retracts some of the minerals which are present inside the leaf, which is going to just age up and die, right? And tries to use those minerals for the growth of the other parts, right? Now why does that happen? Obviously the leaf is going to fall down. So if the leaf is going to fall down, the plant is going to lose the minerals found in the leaf. So it is I would say it is a great deal of wisdom on behalf of the plant to withdraw some of the minerals from the leaf, at least whatever it can withdraw from the leaf, to use it for the other parts, for the growth in the other parts of the plant. So this is what is called relocation. What is it called? Relocation. So relocation or relocation, which means to relocate the minerals from the leaves to the other parts, from the falling leaves to the other parts. So isn't it wisdom, right? So why lose the minerals along with the leaves and the twigs which are going to fall? Take them out and send them to other parts. So suppose minerals are being relocated from this leaf to various parts, to the meristems, to the young leaves, to maybe the stem, or to maybe even the roots. So in that case, the transport becomes multi-directional. So with reference to the phloem, which means all this relocation is going to take place through the phloem only, never through the xylem, right? So xylem, the transport is essentially unidirectional from the bottom to the upper parts of the plants. Up in the transpiration stream, it transports water and minerals. But in the phloem, you'll find generally, phloem, we will say the transport is multi-directional, right? And you will also find that the directions will vary according to the needs. Within the same sieve tube, you'll find the directions to be or only two directions, upwards and downwards, but in general for the phloem, it becomes multi-directional. So children, I would say this topic, or this chapter in plant transport may have only a weightage of probably 1 or 2 questions in your NEET exams. But so what is the need for going into so much detail? But I would say whenever you study properly, because only one question means 4 marks. So you already know, and if you already don't, let me tell you that for 1 mark there is a hard competition. Your rank may go back, or maybe just swiped back by a few hundreds just for a mark. I know of such people who differ in their scores on only 1 mark, but differ so much in the medical colleges that they have been allotted. So children, for a single mark, we must fight tooth and nail, right? So obviously, we are going to study all this in quite good detail, and to understand this properly, let's have a look at one of the illustrations I have here for you, and then we will proceed on with the next topic.